Trump holds a commanding lead in the Republican presidential primary polls still. Too soon to know, however, how this will change as the legal process moves forward, and there is likely more charges pending in the Georgia case. Here now, criminal defense attorney Ted Simon. He is the past president of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers and a prominent Philadelphia attorney. Thank you for being with us, Ted, this morning. I want to start with just, first of all, your reaction to some of what we saw happen in court yesterday, maybe beginning with the judge warning the former president against influencing or bribing witnesses. How big of a concern is that he's out there talking right now?
Well, first of all, good morning, Marni, and thank you for having me. Yes, there's so much to discuss in this case, and clearly there was an admonition made by the magistrate, which is not that unusual, but nonetheless, it was significant and picked up by the media. But pardon me, with all of this discussion about this high-profile case, I think, unfortunately, it's not enough discussed the three most important principles, the bedrock principles of any criminal case where there's any prosecution of the accused. And just to be brief, those include that the government has the burden of proof, that the defendant is presumed innocent, and the government has to prove every essential element beyond a reasonable doubt. This may be the greatest protection that the former president has, and it's the protection that applies to every American citizen. And I think it's a little ironic in a way that an equally bedrock principle that goes to the very heart of this indictment is the collecting, counting, and proper certifying of election results. And that, like I say, is the heart of the case, which takes me to some of the matters that have not been fully discussed. Uniquely, I think, in this case, the indictment, known as a speaking indictment, references 6 co-conspirators. Significantly, they're not named, and they're not specifically stated as being unindicted, which can happen, but it didn't happen here. And I believe that was purposeful, to be left unclear, to remain uncertain, and even create an atmosphere of anxiety. Because for those folks that have not made a deal as of yet, it's a bit of a threatening encouragement. For those that have made deals, it remains undisclosed. And for those that are not sure what may or may not happen, the handwriting is now on the wall, and there's a significant suggestion that you may want to start thinking about what you may or may not be doing, which takes us to perhaps the most important and not fully discussed matter in this case, and that is of Mark Meadows. He's not referenced as one of the 6, but he is referenced in the indictment. And based on my experience, I believe he has made a deal. And I believe that deal, because of his position, his relationship to the former president, his proximity to all events, he likely made a deal for some form of either use immunity or transactional immunity, some form of deal that makes him a witness, but avoids prosecution. The real question, were the prosecutors able to manage a deal that would cause, and we don't know this, would cause Mr. Meadows to plead guilty to some wrongdoing on his part, make him plead to some crime that not only would implicate himself, but would implicate the president. And I believe if that happened, or has happened, as unlikely as it may be, it will frankly shock the world.
All right, so he's not named, and neither is Jared Kushner. And back to your point about the bedrock of this case, Jack Smith even said these are allegations and the burden is on him. I thought that was a very interesting comment. I don't have a lot of time left, Ted, but will Trump testify in this case if it were to go to trial? What do you think?
That's very, one can never say. It's highly unlikely. Another very important thing in this case is obviously there's a lot of public defense going on. And let's not forget, there'll be 12 jurors, and each one of them will have to be satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt. It only takes one, and it only takes one reasonable doubt.
All right, Ted Simon, we're going to leave it there. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.